Welcome to the Gathering Greenhouse, a podcast to help us grow together. I'm Steve.
I'm David.
I'm John, by the way.
It's John.
Welcome, John.
Thanks.
Sideshow John.
Yeah. What were you saying?
Can we start calling him Sideshow John?
No.
No.
So I've just gonna notice that, over the last maybe couple months, you've been really nailing the intro. I know in the early days it was a little bit of a struggle.
Well, that was also fun.
You know what it
Right?
means?
Everyone can make fun of me.
Once they get it,
Everyone can get a laugh.
it's time to change it.
Right.
What can we change it to?
We're not
Still has to be the
help us grow together. Help us grow apart.
Just a new tagline. Welcome to the Gathering Greenhouse, where we talk about stuff.
I actually saw somebody the other day who said that, if you're doing a podcast and you're spending the first 5 to 10 minutes on mindless chatter that nobody wants to see, that you just get right to the content.
Jump straight to the good stuff.
Then I was like, we spent like the first half hour on mindless chat.
I feel like, we're
I
like
tried
a
not
90-10
to.
thing going on.
You guys don't help me with that.
One of my favorite things is to get you off topic.
Speaking of mindless chatter,
Yeah.
I did have one question for you guys.
The sermon on Sunday.
Not that mindless chatter. That's what I play when I need to go to sleep.
Mindless chatter. Is that your son?
No, your sermon. Your sermon. No, my question was, because we just had the church picnic, is for you guys, what is your go-to barbecue stuff? If you're going to have a cookout or a barbecue.
Like at the church picnic.
How else do you have to call it a barbecue? And what do you actually have to have barbecue at it to call?
So somebody,
Because I think around here, the words are interchangeable.
So yeah, a cookout isn't necessarily a barbecue, but all barbecues usually are also cookouts.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can have a cookout. If I'm just doing burgers,
That's not a barbecue.
that's not a barbecue.
Yeah.
But if I'm making barbecue, that's a barbecue.
What if you're throwing shrimps on the Barbies?
Well, then we're in a different country. We got bigger problems.
I don't know. I would be coming to that one. That sounds like a pretty cool cookout. If you're throwing some shrimp on there, as long as they're some jumbo good shrimp.
I will say that you could make the case that Sunday we actually had a barbecue because we did smoke all that pork.
Yeah. I think one year maybe someone called it a barbecue at some point, and then I had someone come up to me and say, I came expecting there to be like ribs and like smoked meats, and there was hamburger and hot dogs, and they were disappointed. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
I'm like,
so, but what about the barbecue sandwich?
well, where does that? What do you consider a barbecue sandwich?
Like a sloppy Joe.
Okay,
that's
right? Not barbecue.
No, I agree.
For smoke,
but there are places that they call that they call a sloppy Joe a barbecue. Have you guys experieed that?
No, but those places
it might be like a regional Michigan thing.
Okay,
it should stay original Michigan.
Like maybe it's a Dutch thing, which I don't know why it would be.
Yeah,
but West Michigan, because I never experienced it until we lived in West Michigan. And people were like, we're going to have barbecue.
And then you show up at your sloppy Joes.
Like, we're having barbecues, awesome. And you show up in his sloppy Joes.
Yeah, that's a disappointment.
Good sloppy Joe.
No, but if you're expecting some smoked meats and you show up in their sloppy Joe,
here's the thing. I will say,
this is a man wish.
Corrected immediately.
A good sloppy Joe is not like on the spectrum of like what is barbecue to what isn't barbecue. It's not the most far away thing from barbecue, right? It's a sauce meat.
Smoked.
It's usually got everything. So it's
savory flavor.
It is not barbecue, however, because it is not. The meat itself is not barbecued meat.
I mean, once you get to ground beef,
that's exact.
You cross
exactly.
Yeah,
you're not in barbecue territory.
It's got to be
together.
The more closely
or flies.
Mm-hmm. The more recently the bone had been removed, or even if the bone is in, like that seems to be the factor that determines how barbecue is it.
Well, no, because not like pulled pork.
Mm-hmm. What are you saying about that?
Before you cook it.
Yeah, that's well removed from the bone. So I don't know.
Like I'm thinking brisket.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Brisket, ribs, like there are things like that that same meat off the bone doesn't have the same. There's just something different. It changes.
Yeah, I really can't tell the difference between brisket and pulled pork.
What? Wow.
Do you like smoked food?
Not really good taste. They can tell the difference a little bit.
I said it's the texture is the.
I think it might be
the texture and the bark. That's the big difference.
I can go back and forth. I mean, I'm probably, if there's brisket involved, I'm going to go for that just because you don't get it very often. But I really like both equally. I don't complain.
So one time, my mother-in-law, she makes roast, like pot roast a lot. and she made this roast, and it just like fell apart. It was like
That's the best.
It was like, but it was like so liquidy, like, and we couldn't figure out what was going on. She's like, I just bought the same pot roast I've always bought. Why is it so tender? Like, this is weird. It was delicious. But I was like, this is different. So I looked and I grabbed the package out of the trash, and it had a pot roast label, but you could see underneath that label, it was originally labeled as a brisket. So she bought probably what would have been like a $50 brisket for like $16. And they cooked it in the crock pot. And oh my goodness.
It was wonderful.
It was wonderful.
So what you're saying is start cooking your brisket in the crock pot.
So here's the thing. I would prefer smoked brisket is better than crock pot. But
Didn't the Winnie chili, that chili bowl, have brisket in it?
Probably.
I believe it did.
I know that Lauren smoked something. I don't know if it was brisket or not, but she was in it to win it, and she did. And she did.
Yeah.
Not surprised. Well, so we change directions here.
Yeah, we're gonna go past the mindless chatter.
Well, that's what we were doing.
Just a mindful chatter.
Mindful chatter. Yes.
Let's get to the meat of this conversation.
So this Sunday was our church picnic.
So make it a little soft.
There's no you can't go back and watch the sermon. So we thought we'd spend a little bit of time just talking about it, because I think there's a lot of important pieces to what you said on Sunday, even though I didn't get to hear it.
Even though you have no idea what was
said. Opinions about what you said.
I was in and out, but I was so busy with other things that I didn't get to hear it. But it is essentially, you went through our mission statement as a church. Is that what you would call it?
I would call it an identity statement.
Identity statement.
But, someone could say mission statement, purpose statement, call what you want.
Okay. So
I call it an identity statement.
Our identity statement. So how we feel uniquely called as a church, or how we are aligned as a church with what the Bible tells us to do. So how we uniquely interpret that. And it's based on Jesus' ministry, right?
Right. Yeah,
and then carrying on what Jesus told us to do after his ministry. So he kind of modeled the ministry and then gave the Great Commission and to the end.
Yep.
But okay, so that's what we're going to talk about this morning. And all of these statements start with up. We are. So is there a significance?
Penn State.
We are. Really? Is that?
We are farmers.
Well, isn't that Penn State's big thing? They're like, we are. They're like, Penn State.
I'm pretty sure Penn State's big thing is just losing.
Does anybody like Penn State?
I mean, there's a lot of people who do. I go to Penn State
around here. I just
the Francises, because I think Caroline went there.
Okay.
I mean, it's a kind of school.
The Nittany Lion.
Worst mascot.
What's a Nittany? What is a Nittany?
No idea.
Is it a different type of lion?
Is it a real lion?
So there's a lot of problems with Penn State, right? We don't know what a Nittany Lion is. They play in Beaver Stadium, right?
Is that named after somebody?
Beaver. I have no idea.
But it's an Ivy League school,
no,
right?
It's a Big Ten school.
But isn't it Penn? Is there another Penn that's Ivy League?
UPenn.
Okay, so maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
But they're the Colonials, I think.
Because I knew they were Big Ten, but for some reason I thought they were like a little bit more exclusive of a Big Ten school.
I think they're middle of the road.
Middle of the road? Okay, yeah. That's what I mean.
They're not Northwest.
I don't think they're
Is Northwestern really good in this area, right?
It's like an excluded school.
For a long time, I thought Northwestern was like near, like in Oregon or Washington.
In the Northwest.
Yeah, that's where I thought it was. Because, back in early 2000s, they were really good in football.
So, but remember, there was a time in America's history when Chicago was the northwest of the country.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
even Ohio was the western edge.
It was. Yeah. Ohio was the great frontier at one point. Hard to think of it that way.
It's really funny. They got to Ohio and they said we have to keep going because this can't.
Is that how they were? Because then they moved it further west, and they're like, now let's make Ohio the Midwest, because it's still
right.
People think it's the West.
When people who haven't been to Ohio ask me to describe it, I say, just imagine a state where it gets better the closer you get to the border.
Which border? Every direction.
Except for one. Except for Indiana. No, but you think about
West Virginia, too?
Yes.
West Virginia is beautiful.
Think about the state, how it changes as you get close to every
You're talking
border.
about
You're either getting mountains or you're getting lakes.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Right?
Because I'm like, Columbus is in the middle, and that might be like one of the better faster growing cities.
It almost is a cool city, but like just geographically,
No, it's boring.
it's boring.
Cities are the devil's playground.
Oh gosh,
God created us to live out in nature.
true.
So what's the first city?
Going a different. What is that?
We are what's the significance of we are on our mission?
What's the first city in the Bible? It's built by Cain.
Yes,
And then the first city that we really know about is Babel.
Babel. Yeah,
I mean, Nimrod built some city too. So your first city builders are Cain and Nimrod.
and Nimrod. What a terrible name, by the way.
You have to go through
Nimrod.
to get to a good one.
I don't know if there is a good one. Jerusalem is the only.
Yeah,
But
here's
the Jerusalem problem is every time they're in the
Yeah,
Bible.
well, I'm going to give a little
that's-
defense
yeah.
to the other cities that existed. You know, they were pretty bad. So
In
you know,
defense of Jericho,
in defense of Jericho, there's not I'm not going
was
to
no
defend
defense for
I'm
Jericho.
not defending Jericho. I'm defending all the other cities
walls. They had
that
the
exist.
grapes like throwing their slushies.
that when something is going well, you don't have to spend too much time talking about it. So there could have been some very good cities going on, and you know there is.
Need to hide.
This is such
didn't need
a
to-
stretch. This is such a stretch.
Gosh, you know, hey,
Did Abraham live in a city?
He had a 10.
he eventually he moved to. Wasn't he in Egypt for a little bit?
Fine.
He
lived in a city, he was in the wrong place.
and God called him out every time and said, "Get out of there."
Every time he started in a city, God called him out of the city. He went to Egypt because he had little faith.
Yeah,
Right. So every time he went
Well,
to-
you didn't say that part of it. You
I'm
just said,
saying-
did he live in a city?
All right, yes, fair enough. Fair enough. All right. So we are.
You're
Why don't we give the whole statement? I'll do it.
Please do it, because I don't know if I could get it all.
We are a Christ-centered, grace-oriented church on a mission to connect more people to Jesus.
Yes.
That's who we are.
And simplified version we have up on our cafe.
Which is what?
On a mission to connect people to Jesus.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So we are is important because it's just a very simple statement to say that we are a we, right?
Yeah.
We're not me,
Corporate.
and we're focused on being together and as a team. But you know, we are Christ-centered. And I think that's really the key is that you know being Christ-centered means that Jesus is at the center of everything that we do, and we don't ever want to be a place where we do things just because they're easy or because they're convenient or
Yeah.
because they're fun if they don't also align with Jesus and his mission.
Okay.
So I don't know, John, how does that play out in worship?
Yeah. So, I mean, just practically, the songs we sing are about Jesus. It's not about us. We weave the gospel message, the good news of Jesus, how he has, how because of what he did for us, we now, you know, it's the basis of everything we do. So from what we sing to what we preach, it is all built upon who Christ is and what he has done. And we can do it because of what he's done. And we try to keep that at the center of what we do and everything.
And how are groups
Yeah.
Christ-centered?
Well, so our measure for success in a group is based on life change, which means growing closer to Jesus. So if a group isn't producing life change, you would say, hey, how can we help you all get better at that part of it?
Yeah.
Because ultimately, if we just get a bunch of people in groups and we aren't growing closer to Jesus, then we're just getting together.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's awesome because essentially what we're saying is across the board, the standard is Jesus, right? Everything is like we want to be more like him. So that's why we're Christ-centered and we're grace-oriented. Which do you want to say something?
Yeah, I did. I just wanted a little bit more clarity on Christ-centered. When we say we want to be more like Jesus or do more like Jesus, we're talking about. I'm just play like, dumb a little bit. Are we talking about, the life that he lived in the Bible that we want to try to live like that? Are we talking about living out the commandments that he had for his life? Or are we talking about we just want to like read about it and learn about it and like be more educated on it?
Yeah, that's awesome because that's like it's the question of the head versus the hands.
Yeah.
Right. All that. So let's save that because that will
you want to play that one out later.
Play out more when we get to the end.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. So we're grace oriented, which essentially means that we choose to view others through the lens of grace. And some people think you put grace and truth at odds with each other. Well, people who are all grace, there's no truth there. And we would say, no. So actual grace, like real grace, is perfectly aligned with the truth because that was Jesus, John 1:14, full of grace and truth. And so our desire is to be a place where we always we always tell the truth. We're focused on the truth. We don't water down the truth, but we do it graciously.
Okay. And the truth comes from
being Christ-centered.
I mean, where would we say, because is the truth formed by what we say as a church, or is it based on something, is kind of what I'm getting at?
Jesus himself said, I am the truth.
The truth.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, so for us, it's Jesus is the Word. Mm-hmm. And so it's the Word of God. That's where we find truth. And so anything that we call truth has to align with the Bible. Okay. We think the Bible is trustworthy. That's one of our core values.
Yes.
Is that we trust the Bible. I would also say I think it's fun when you talk about being grace-oriented to talk about 3 words that really describe every church, which is belong, believe, and behave. Right? So belong is, am I welcome here?
Yeah.
Believe is what's up here?
Yeah.
And behave is how I live it out. And we would say at the gathering, you don't have to believe like us to belong with us.
Right.
Right. You can be here. You're welcome here, even if you don't believe what we believe. And you don't have to behave like us to belong with us. You know, there are people who come to the gathering that I would say, hey, you're doing some things that are contrary to what the Bible says. Because I am too. Right. All of us, this is another one of our core values, that nobody's perfect. And so, you know, it's fine. If you don't behave like everybody else at the gathering, that's okay. You can still belong at the gathering. Now, we hope that our grace orientation pushes people towards being Christ-centered, which means that the more you're here, the more you experience grace, because we who have received grace give grace, the more you'll want to be Christ-centered, and then all of a sudden what you believe and how you behave will begin to change.
Yeah, there's a progression in what you said, right? You belong here, and we're going to show you grace. We're going to be hospitable. We're going to be welcoming. You're going to feel like this is where you're supposed to be. And we believe by being here, you're going to hear the truth of God preached. You're going to learn. You're going to grow, and you're going to, like, we want you to believe, the truth of Jesus. And then when you believe, we believe Jesus will change your life, and your behavior will follow and change all that. And so sometimes it's really tempting to start with the behavior and say, like, you need to act this way, look this way before you could ever belong. But I don't think that's what Jesus did. Jesus had dinner with people who were, he ate with tax collectors. That was like the highest offense, the worst behavior in his society at the time. And he said, I'm going to let you belong with me but I'm going to challenge you.
When you say there's also like, so, right, we see the tax collectors and the sinners and the people who were like the outcasts that the Jewish leaders were like, why are you hanging out with them? But then we also see, the disciples and some of the other people who maybe he had a little higher standard for. So do you think that there's, once you are, have committed your life to Jesus, you baptize and all that, do you think that there's a different level of expectation for those people and more accountability that takes place? Or are we still a grace-oriented church and still say, hey, are there appropriate places for that, or would it all be the same category?
So I would say the more connected we are to people, then the more we have a responsibility to, challenge them.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of times, like, the better I know someone, the more likely I am to say, hey, I want to challenge you on this part of your life. So
you're saying you wouldn't go up to a stranger that you don't know and give them life advice?
Like if somebody shows up and they're standing out of the parking lot smoking, I'm not going to walk up and take the cigarette out of their mouth and throw it down.
Yeah.
Right? And because number one, I don't think smoking is like the worst thing you could ever do.
Right.
It's not healthy. It's not good for you. Whatever. But if I have a friend who's smoking like 12 packs a day, and I have a relationship with them, I might say, hey, this isn't good for you. Your body is the temple of God.
Yeah.
Maybe you should think about, let's try to back it down to 8 packs a day. At the end of the day, though, that's between them and God.
Right.
My job is to graciously love them, graciously speak truth into their life, but I'm going to let the Holy Spirit do the work in their heart. I'm going to let the Holy Spirit do the work in changing them, and they'll answer to God for what they've done. I'm not going to answer to God for what they've done. I'll answer to God for what I've done.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Good answer.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. You answered all the questions.
You did.
All right. So grace-oriented. Church on a mission.
Yep.
And here's where we'll come back to the question you asked.
Yeah.
Are we all about like what people know and think and believe and learn, or is there more to it than that? And when we say we're a church on a mission, we're emphasizing action.
Yeah.
That we're not just a place of head knowledge. I don't ever want to preach a sermon where people are like, man, I learned something new, so now I've grown. I want it to be, hey, I see something in a new way and it's prompting me to action. If we're not prompting people to take the next step in their spiritual journey, then we're not really on a mission. We're, kind of an educational facility, which I don't ever want us to be that. Now, we do teach things, and I hope that people learn new things, but I always hope that prompts them to action. And so we're a church on a mission, which is action oriented.
Yeah. And how do you do that? Do you end your sermon with like action points? Do we do it in other ways?
I think we do it in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I think, next steps is a pretty common phrase. And a lot of times in sermons, I do end by saying, let's talk about next steps.
Yeah.
If you do the sermon questions with your small group, those always end with next steps.
Yeah. For our connection card used to have
next steps on it. Doesn't anymore, but that was always fun.
Yeah.
That's because we created them one every week.
Yes.
Yeah. We don't do that anymore. But so lots of challenge to people to take the next step. But as a group, because remember this whole statement starts with we are. So as a group, we have a unified mission. So we're a church on a mission to do what? To connect.
Yeah.
And we think connection is important because that's what God is all about. He's a connecting God. But we want to connect more people to Jesus. So let's zero in on the word more for a minute. That's important to us because we think we have the most important message people can ever hear. So we want as many people as possible to hear that message. But a lot of what we do is very intentionally designed to make sure more people can hear our message. So, I don't know if you guys want to talk about some things that you guys do in your areas to help us reach more people. Like your job is connections. And, we want people who come one time to come back a second time.
Yeah.
Because, then they can get more connected to Jesus.
Right.
So how do you do that?
To get them to come back. Well, I think, honestly, we'd start with John and I in the very beginning, which is designing our website for people who don't go here.
Yep.
So if you come to the gathering and you have a hard time navigating the website, it's because it's not designed for you. It's designed for new people.
It ain't for you.
It is not for you. That's why we make our service times really easy to see and on the top. The direction is really easy to find. The walkthrough of the building, who the pastor is, how to find previous sermon videos. So
not for you,
not for the people who come here. We want it designed for people who are new. So we start right there. We design stuff so it's easy for people who don't know about us to learn about us and find all the information they want.
Yeah.
We also try to, sometimes we'll put stuff out on the internet that is designed to engage people where they're at.
Yeah.
This is where we might be as a church.
Like high quality stuff.
High quality.
Or questions and things that they're concerned about.
Our podcast is for our church. We are pretty open. We're having a conversation about our church. If you don't come to our church, you might be interested.
Not for you.
It's probably not. Yeah. But, some of the sermon clips we put out, some of the standalone videos, we are putting stuff out that we believe our society or our world or our things people are wondering about, wanting to know about. And we're trying to give you something that you can click on and you can see Jesus in that issue or in that thing. And if that leads that person to, visiting our church, great. If not, that's still great, but we are intentionally with a lot of that stuff saying we're trying to just start that conversation with somebody. So a lot of what we do online, even, I say for a lot of people, you put a ton of work on your team to make sure that when someone comes to church for the first time, we try to make it as unscary as possible.
Yeah.
Because it is a big deal to
is that
never church unscary? I don't know.
Scary less.
Like, I don't know. Comfortable.
That's no. It doesn't work.
Because it is, but it is scary for a lot of people to say, I've not been to church, or I haven't been to church in a long time at least. And I'm just going to show up to this random building and walk in, and there's going to be a bunch of people who I think already know each other, and they're going to sing, and someone's going to talk at me.
They're going to judge me.
They're going to judge me. Like, there's all these things that go through people's heads. And so we work really hard to get rid of all those barriers to the best of our ability.
Yeah. And for us, one of our big sayings is do it for the one. And that's like the one person you personally know who doesn't know Jesus. How would you want them to be treated when they walk in the door, when they enter the parking lot, when they go to get a donut, when they go inside the church? How would you want someone who they don't know to go up to them and just welcome them as a person or see them as a potential new member, right? So we don't want any of our team to be thinking too far ahead. We want them just to think about day one.
Yep.
Who are you? How can I help you? Not how can you come back again?
Right.
Because real hospitality means you care more about the person than what they're going to do, right?
How can we drag you into our cult?
How people come here the first time, they just want to know we're not crazy and if they're going to come back again, right? That's all they really care about. They don't care about all the small groups that we have. They don't care about the events that are coming up. They really just are very much based on feelings. They want to come in, feel comfortable, feel like people actually are noticing them and connected. And we're very subtle about that, but also very intentional with it. Like I specifically say to my welcome people is smile, have conversations if you can, and don't talk too much. Don't talk about all the things that people can get involved in. Just treat them like a person, right? Because that's how you get people to come back a second time. And then once people come back a second time, then they're looking to find out a little bit more about who we are. And then we want them to go to our starting point class and get involved. But we don't talk about any of that.
Yeah.
If you're a first timer, you should not hear us talk about that at all.
Yeah, we just want you to know we're not crazy.
Right.
At least. Yeah. So, I think it's important to point out that we try to get people to connect to the gathering.
Yeah.
Because we think it's important for people to be connected to the people of God. But that's not our end goal.
Yep.
Right. And I want people to feel some sense of connection to me. And now, in a church of our size, I cannot have a connection with every person. But when I preach, I want to preach in a way that people feel like they have a connection to me. Steve is the face, the connection face. And so we want people to feel like they've got a connection to Steve. And when you're leading worship, we want families to feel connected to Andrew and Rebecca, and you go on down the line. It's important for them to feel connected to people. It's important for them to feel connected to the church, but that's not the end goal.
Yeah.
The end goal is to connect them to Jesus.
Yeah.
And so that's way more important to us, is that they get connected to Jesus. So there are people who maybe watch our services online and will never darken the door of our church. Mm-hmm. And we're okay with that, because if that's connecting them to Jesus, that's the end goal. If they never put money in the offering box, but they're connected to Jesus, that's awesome. That's the end goal. So I think that's what we're striving for.
Yeah.
And if more people come, that's awesome. We want to share the good news with as many people as we can. But I know there's I do. It's very distracting because John's sitting over here like this. Because there's a bird in the ceiling.
Oh, really?
Yes. A bird has made its way in. It's probably an eagle, and it's a sign.
It's a big bird.
I didn't even hear it.
I think we're almost at the end.
I thought it was a baby crying out there.
That was happening too.
Okay.
I don't know whose kid that was.
All right. So now I'm completely off track.
Okay.
So that's it, though.
Yeah.
I mean, we are a Christ-centered, grace-oriented church on a mission
to connect more people to Jesus.
Yep. That's who we are. And I should say, that's what we aspire to be as well.
Yeah.
Right.
We have next steps as a church also. Mm-hmm. We can always be more Christ-centered. We can always be more grace-oriented. And so, that's what we aspire to as well.
Great. Well, thanks for spending some time with us today. We'll be here back next week to...
we will.
Well,
we can't film on Monday, though.
Right.
Yeah, it's okay.
Well, have a great 4th of July weekend. Right. They watch it on... So tomorrow. So tomorrow's 4th of July.
Yes.
If you're watching it right now.
Drink coffee, not tea.
Bye.